Thank you so much, Santiago, for joining this meeting today. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. And as we previously spoke, the reason for this meeting is pretty much to try to set some basis and try to have some sort of guidance for those students who want to find a job in sports. And of course, your experience is it's quite amazing. You've worked with the Miami Heat, and now you're working with the Inter of Miami. But I'm not going to take the spotlight away from you. So can you please talk a little bit about yourself and your experience?
Yeah, awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for the invite. I highly appreciate it, especially during these times. As you were saying, my name is Santiago. I started to go a little bit way back, and it'll wrap up at the end. I started working with the Miami FC, which is a professional team in what would be like almost the second league here in the U.S. After that, I got the opportunity to work in an agency with clients such as Coca-Cola and Bean Sports. So I still had a little bit going on in the world of sports, but it wasn't fully merged until as you said, I jumped and I started doing an internship with the Miami Heat, more specifically in the ticket sales department. So my position there was helping the people in my current position do actually all the type of events during the game and help them throughout the operations on the game. So I had to do a lot of activities or fan engagement on the court with players and those type of activities that generate revenue. So after 3 years at the Heat, or 2 years and a half at the Heat, I moved into Miami, which is the new MLS franchise here in the United States. So it was a little bit more. It's a little bit different of a environment since it's a brand new franchise. So it's nothing was settled. So that's one of the biggest things that actually made me switch from one team to another. And not only the fact that, of course, it was football or soccer, how they call it here, but it got me the chance to actually like see how everything works from year zero or like not even one. So that's currently my position. I work as an account manager for or account executive for Inter Miami in the ticket sales, more specifically in the group as a group specialist. So my position, besides generating revenue, it works mostly with building relationships with more specifically youth sports on the target of soccer. So dealing with directors of coaching, presidents of leagues, and presidents of clubs, just to educate them on what the team does.
Oh, awesome. So you have a lot of experience working in different items, but more specifically in these two positions, you have like a really close connection with like the daily basis of pretty much everything in a way.
Yeah.
So far, what's the biggest challenge that you found, for example, in this position with the Inter of Miami?
Yeah. So the biggest challenge working in this type of environment, I would say the two biggest things are, of course, that the sports in general, it's a rapid environment. So everything goes really quick. More specifically in the NBA, since it's 41 home games or 42 home games, everything goes like in a fast speed. So like you're not analyzing one game, you're analyzing three games at the time, 4 games at the time, because they all come so rapidly. At the at the MLS or the other type of leagues, even though these leagues are a little bit more driven by revenue coming through the gate, so the ticket it's a little bit more important. You do have a little bit more of spam to actually calm down and like analyze what's coming to the next for the next game and what type of and how do you want to approach it. So I believe that will be one of the biggest difference and one of the biggest challenges that we have, as well as the fact, more specifically for your question for Inter Miami, is the fact that it's a brand new team. So it's basically as a startup, but with the brand image of a professional soccer team that it's known nationally and worldwide. right? So that would be one of the biggest challenges that we are trying to figure out things as we go. We're trying to figure out what the best way to approach the market is as we go and as we speak. So that would be one of the biggest challenges throughout the whole, from in my position throughout the whole with the team.
Yeah. So you're talking about this startup mentality, and of course, how fast everything goes in the organization. Uh, One of the the big mindsets of startups, it's pretty much to fail fast and learn quick. So talking about your background, and asking this question as a student, what do you think are the main skill sets that you need for work in organizations such as a professional football club or maybe an organization from the NBA?
Yeah, so I would say for me, like I always look for people that and for the right attitude, more specifically. So like they know what they're getting themselves into. They gotta understand that it's long hours, that you could miss out on a Saturday going out with your friends and family because you have a game. So like it could be working from 10 a.m. all the way to 10 p.m. So those kind of things, like you gotta like people gotta understand that that's what comes with the business and with the industry. So that's definitely something like really important. Like it's not all shiny, it's not all beautiful. Like, oh, you work in sports and it's glamorous. Sometimes it is. So like most of it in the NBA, like it's there's a lot of new toys and it's a lot of flash, but it's also a lot of hours, and it's working weekends, and like understanding that you might be running around from one place to another, which is not what comes with a typical job. So having that attitude and that like mindset is always pretty important, as well as I would say problem solving, like understanding that you're most of the times you're gonna be on your feet, and like you gotta you gotta have a quick response to the things that might happen. As you may know, like working in like in an event such as a soccer game or any type of entertainment, things are gonna happen. Like there's always gonna be like always something's gonna be wrong, and you gotta understand that like that's how things work. Like there's always gonna be something wrong, and you just gotta um, try to analyze it as quick as possible, and don't swallow on the fact that, oh, like something went wrong, like this is it's at the end of the word, because at the end of like it's not. So just understanding that like things switch rapidly, like it's pretty intense throughout the whole event, like, and things could go wrong. Like it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, that's true. I have actually I had an experience working a little bit with events, and I know that it's kind of hard, and especially
Yeah.
physically speaking. But talking about a little bit more like your area and more the technical side. What are the main aspects that you think that it's crucial to to develop a job like I don't know, maybe in your role? What do you think students they should focus on?
Yeah, so but my role, it's a little bit, it's pretty far from facing. So it's a lot of uh relationship based. So it's a lot of dealing with customers, it's a lot of dealing with clients. So of course, at the top of everything is the customer service, is understanding that the customer always it's always right, and like everything goes around the fence, and that's the way you gotta approach the game, right? Or the position. So understanding that is definitely the first thing to do. When you go a little bit back, so like a little bit of the different things that you can do, I would say just getting your feet wet in the sense of like, I had a great opportunity of being like sitting on the table with before I start doing all of this with the director of being sports, and like the chief marketing officer. So like those type of things that they had to do with sports, but it was in a completely other sense. It gave me like, it gives you a little bit of the confidence, and like the fact that like, oh, like I can talk with another human being, and it's, even though if you're trying to figure out a solution for them or trying to sell them or something, like you got to understand that it's another person on the other side, and figuring out what are the things that they are looking for, what are their problems, and helping them solve them. it's the best. It's the most important thing that you can do. Of course, if you're trying to get that'll be on my end. If you're trying to get something like a little bit more on a marketing or on something else, I do know this, and you probably can talk a little bit further on that. Like there's a lot of different like SEOs and like programs that you can develop to actually get your foot on the door.
Yeah, amazing. It's really useful because friend of mine and of course other students, they usually ask this kind of question like, okay, if I want to work, for example, in events, what are the skill sets that I need actually to land on a job like, I don't know, in a big organization, or maybe just your work in this specific environment? So
no, of course, and it's a lot of being organized. Like an event, it's basically a project that it lasts. Like we plan 8 weeks in advance before a game. So like all of those little steps to get to the game, like the game is the final product, basically. Like there's weeks in advance before that to actually achieve what happened in that game, like whatever happened at the event. We work almost 2 months in advance to actually achieve that. So it's a lot of organization, it's a lot of step by steps, and like understanding what are the things that you can do, and like where are what are the periods before that. So 8 weeks prior to the event, we start actually targeting first of all, actually. So before the full season, we actually start analyzing what games on the schedule could actually fit for what type of event, right? So what we do is that we basically put all the games in a board, and we analyze. Okay, so if this game is on X date, it's close to the Father's Day. So let's try to aim something to do for Father's Day. What are the actual target markets that we can hit? Or for, let's say we have a game at the on August, which is, I believe, is the beginning of the school year. So let's try to do something around going back to school, where we can not only promote, but it can actually it's a little bit more targeted, because we already have an idea beforehand, right? So let's say if we're working something for back to school, let's aim schools like 2 months prior to the event, so they can actually understand what we're trying to do, so they can have their own time, because they need to have their own time to actually organize people to come to games, and like to figure out if it works for that solution for their problems, or if we bring the right solutions. So all those type of things, it's that lead to an event. It's worked weeks in advance.
Yeah, but pretty much the event is, as you said, the final step, and
yeah,
the project itself. So one last question. What's like your personal advice for everyone who wants to start working in sports?
Yeah, so the two biggest things that I believe to work in sports, like the most important thing is network. Like you got even though people don't believe it, and I didn't believe it at the beginning, because like we know sports as such a huge mass and such a big industry worldwide. It's actually a pretty small industry. Like when you start to get inside of it and you start like seeing it, you start seeing that the same people are repeating themselves. Like it's always the same environment. And I got my, like for example, I got my position because of people that have seen me work, and they actually knew other people. So it's not even your first, I believe how LinkedIn calls it, like your first connection, but it could be a second or third. Like you never know. There's always someone watching, especially when we're working in events and when you're working different type of games. There's always someone watching. So going the extra step, asking people, hey, how can I help you? How can I do this, or how can I do that? It'll get people to see you, and they'll be able to be like, oh, like this guy actually works. And even if you start as an intern, or even if you start, I started as a part-time position, helping bring the stadium, or like set up the stadium for a second division team. That got me to actually start working directly with the marketing directors, and they put me in contact with other people. So like, even if it's like, it's not always gonna be, you're not always gonna be hired by the Real Madrid or the Lakers, and like all those big names. Like, as long as you get your foot in the door and you start networking and people start seeing how you work, I believe is one of the biggest things that you can actually do. And of course, is like utilizing this time to like build a relationship with people, like actually start like ask people. Nowadays we are pretty lucky that we have things like Skype, FaceTime, LinkedIn, which it could make a huge difference. Just like sending a message to someone through LinkedIn. Hey, like I see what you do. I would love to learn more. Like, there's two things right now. Like, people are really bored, and most of the times people are actually pretty willing to help. You're not asked, like, when you come with that approach, with the mentality of learning from them, you're not asking for much. You're asking, hey, how do you got there? How do you ended up in that position? Like, what type of tips you have for me? It could be a 5-minute conversation. It could lead to even more, but just at least doing that first step, I believe is the biggest thing when you're trying to get yourself in the industry. As well as, I believe I touched upon a little bit before, it's not always gonna be the Lakers, the Real Madrids, and the Chelseas of the teams. You gotta like figure out what the team is in your location, in what type of industry. Like, for example, I do know that in Miami there's not only there's a couple of professional teams, but there's also FIBA and CONCACAF are here. So like, it's a little bit bigger than just the team that you support. And it could be always a little bit more to just analyze where can you go, where can you start from the get-go, like where can you start from the beginning and build yourself up from there. Because what you need is to get your foot on the door and just like see where that takes you.
Yeah, amazing, really. As I said, you're the guy. You have the experience. You know what you're talking about. Well,
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, Santiago, thank you so much. I know that you have a pretty busy schedule, and well, I would like to thank you in name of all the students and all the people who wants to work in sports. I really enjoyed this conversation with you today. So,
My pleasure.
Any additional comments? Maybe you want to promote a little bit your social media accounts, because I have followed you for quite a while. I know that you have a really good information that you share usually on your accounts.
Yeah, of course. And anyone that's looking at this, they can always follow me on LinkedIn. They can always reach out, ask for help. I'm more than glad to answer any type of questions or help with any type of things that I could. Of course, I'm pretty sure you're gonna put it like when you put it on LinkedIn. Of course, tag me to it so I can help anyone that has any type of questions or how to get themselves in the industry. We're here to help and to help each other. So hopefully we can keep it going.
Thank you so much, Santiago. Well,
no worries, Elmis. Thank you.